security. Before we do that, I have to share this video to all of the people who have signed up on our WhatsApp to let them know that we're starting now, because we need to make sure that we're fighting a nasty fight. We're fighting a nasty fight with some nasty people with endless resources. So I stopped seeing the lizards and the cockroaches and those that paid to do the actual job. I want to focus on those. We can't be just complaining about the poison fruit. We got to take down the poison tree. Trinidad and Tobago is a nation corrupt from conception. From the moment that red, white, and black Union Jack, from the moment that Union Jack came down and we put up the red, white, and black, there were people who had already put their money behind Eric Williams and his crew to take over and corruptly enrich themselves. And some of the nastiest things we went through as a nation, we went through under Eric Williams, the Black Power Uprising, where people had to literally riot to get their rightful due in the country, despite what the PNM had promised them. And the whole Jean Miles affair, when PNM ministers were openly taking bribes to sell gas station licenses. Now, I can't tell you if that's ever stopped. I can't tell you if it's going on. National Petroleum could tell you. The Minister of Energy could tell you. Franklin Can took that to his grave. We've been corrupt from conception. But there was a time in this country's history. Let me give you a little segue before I go back to that. Actually, I'll stick up in that. I know it's sounding like a confused anota. It's just that the issues that we're going to be touching on tonight are very sensitive. The gentleman that I am about to interview was a former member of a team on a day where we were told that police officers were arrested for going to put on what they say was a walk. My friend, good night. You are live now with our live audience, so everything you say now goes out to the world, and I want you to be clear about that. This gentleman asked for, at least for the purposes of this interview, for anonymity, and I have agreed to that. So I don't want to call him by name, but I want to give him an opportunity to tell a little bit of his backstory, starting with, because I didn't say as yet, do me a favor, count backwards from 10 to 1. I want to know that the audience are hearing you well.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Good night, Mr. Philip and your audience. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I need a couple people, and I'll pause till you all stop saying it, because I don't want a million people to tell me, but did you all hear that well enough? And I have to wait because there's a delay between what I say and Facebook and then other people's responses. Okay, I need to fix something here. I'm going to try, and you have to give me a minute. We were hoping to have a more direct connection. There was a problem with that. We're going to try again. My friend, I need you to do me a favor though. I need you to speak into the phone, and I need you to speak louder. Okay? This gentleman that I am about to speak to was a member.
Yes, I'm ready,
Yeah, he was a member of the infamous, if not notorious, Flying Squad. Give us some of your background information, my friend. You take it from there.
Okay. I was a member of the Flying Squad from 1978, 79 until 1983, 84. I became a member of the Flying Squad when Mr. Randall Burroughs actually formed the first tactical unit in Trinidad and Tobago. It was a squad formed under his auspices because there was not any unit or any branch, even in the army or any other law enforcement agency, which could have rendered any assistance to contain or even capture any situation, like, for example, a hostage situation or otherwise. The unit was formed of exactly 50 men that was selected throughout the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, handpicked by certain senior officers. And I was fortunate to be one of those members. We actually went back and did a 6-month training course with the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment at Camp Centeno. I was just, of the 50 men that was selected.
Pause for 1 second for me, sorry. All right, everybody, we okay with the audio comments now, so you don't need to comment on the audio again. We're good with that. Sorry about that. Continue from Centeno.
Yeah. We went to do, in fact, we were assigned to do a 6 months training with the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment. One of our chief instructor was a gentleman by the name of Khalil Shah. He is the nephew of Rafiq Shah. He was seconded from the Canadian Armed Forces, where he was a first lieutenant in the Canadian Armed Forces, with the promise that he would have got promotion very rapid in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. People might ask why he was not selected to join the army. From what Mr. Khalil Shah and I dialogued or had a chat with, he was not selected for the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment because they said he would have been a security risk.
Why is that?
So
that was because of his relationship to Rafiq Shah in 1970?
Yes, sir.
So they didn't take him, they didn't keep their word to him. Everybody who is watching the video, if you're not hearing it, come back next time. We are okay now with our audio. This is the best we could do. So deal with it, or you could leave and come back another time. Everybody else, please share the video, but let's stop with the audio comments. There's nothing else we can do to adjust it. So Khalil Shah, he was trained by the Canadians.
He was a first lieutenant in the Canadian Armed Forces.
And they brought him here and offered him a position in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service that they never gave him.
Very correct.
Continue.
Mr. Khalil Shah, well, of course, when you join as a constable. He never did 6-month training in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. They gave him a little refresher course and he was inducted into the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Mr. Khalil Shah, at least I have never seen this or witnessed this in any other meetings or organization we had in Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Khalil Shah was the only junior officer that used to sit down and plan and execute exercises with senior officers, with men like Mr. Samson Phillip, Mr. Mendez, for those who know about these gentlemen, Mr. Jack and a few senior officers again we had. Mr. Carrington, and a few senior officers that used to plan and execute the search. Well, where we see exercise we used to go on raids and whatever. He was never promoted and he got despondent, and I believe he left and he went back to Canada. On the exercise, on the training that we did at Camp Centeno, we used to do training from like about 6, 7 in the morning till 4, 5 in the evening. And it will alter, and they used to stagger it. Stagger means, for those who don't know, again, it's like, you know, they have certain officers coming at one time, certain other officers were coming at other times, and we will do the exercise. It was very demanding. It was very strict adherence to the rules of the regulation of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment, of which I'm very proud of. There were gentlemen in that company that used to guide me and protect me. Well, not protect me, but guide me along certain lines. For example, I would always be grateful to one gentleman. Again, his name is Sergeant Carrington from the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment. I believe he is also related to Mr. Cecil Carrington, Assistant Commissioner from Flying Squad. Mr. Carrington really led me through the Army. He really guided me and not only protected me, but he advised me a lot, which I'm very grateful for. They're very nice senior officers in that Army. After graduated, doing the 6 months exercise, we were integrated into the Flying Squad. So Flying Squad actually was a member of about 60 to 70 original men, but then they integrated us, 50 men who were trained in the tactical unit. They integrated us merged us with the Flying Squad men.
Why was it called Flying Squad?
Well, that is a name that was picked up or adhered from a unit in England.
Okay, good.
In England, they had a unit that...
Okay, good. You don't have to go too far with that. So, there were 60 to 70 police officers in the Flying Squad, and there were 50 hand-picked officers who were sent to train with the Army and came back and linked up with these 60 to 70. So, you all became about 110 strong. Correct?
Correct.
Continue.
And our duty was to, we did intelligence, we did anything you can think basically within the police service on the legal term, like, gathering information, gathering intelligence, evidence, and all this stuff was done by our men. We used to do almost everything for ourselves. We never depended on much other intelligence unit from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And we used to patrol the whole of Trinidad and Tobago, basically. We had 3 offices. One was the Flying Squad East, which was stationed was out of the St. Joseph Police Station, which is where the original Flying Squad started from, because Mr. Randall Burgos was a gentleman from the Tunapuna district, and he had originally formed the Flying Squad out of St. Joseph Police Station. And for those who don't know, St. Joseph Police Station was once a barracks in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. It was a barracks before they turned it over to a police station. So from there now, when he became commissioner, he came into Port of Spain, of course, the commissioner house, and that is where he decided to form this unit of the tactical men and merge them with the rest of Flying Squad men. And I used to patrol from the St. James Barracks. Well, let me rephrase that. The St. James Academy now. Straight to, for those who know, the Spring Bridge in Blanchisseuse on the North Coast Road. I've done that for nearly 9 months. Morning, noon, and night.
This was for what? This is for drugs?
We were looking, our duty out there was for the interdiction of drugs, arms, and ammunition. and anything contraband. For example, I can give many occasions when I saw Venezuelan boats off the coast of Lafayette. There is a place they call the 100 Steps in Lafayette. I used to patrol that area, and when the tide is up, I used to actually drive down on the beach itself because the sand is solid, so you can drive down on the beach with a 4x4. I used to be driving a 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser. And many occasions, and many times, I have seen boats or vessels or whatever you want, ocean-going vessels with Venezuelan flags over Lafayette. And I made numerous calls to the Coast Guard because we had direct line of communication, not telephone communication through wireless with the Coast Guard. And on many occasions I made, requests for them for the Coast Guard to come along and check these boats and whatever. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't do it. I know for a fact that there was a lot of contraband used to come on the North Coast. And the whole thing about it is why they send us up there and all too. I may be opening a can of words here, but the truth is the truth, and I shall speak the truth. We were instructed to visit Carl Hudson Phillip house. These were instructions that were given to us to make a visit at his house and to the former Governor General of Trinidad and Tobago, Sir Solomon Uchoy. We used to have to visit these men's house because they had beach houses on the North Coast Road. I would rather not say exactly which part and which location.
What was the visits for?
And that was, sorry?
What were those visits for? Why were you instructed?
It was very sensitive information, and I would rather not speak about that.
Okay, I want to ask you a question. Okay, I want to take you fast forward, and maybe we could circle back to what you're building to here. Randolph Burroughs ended up with a reputation of being a no-nonsense commissioner, and his flying squad killed a lot of people in the field. They got a reputation for extrajudicial killing outside of the law. Were you aware or part of any of that?
I would rephrase that statement that you made. At no time did I witness, participate, or had information of any extrajudicial homicide.
So where did that reputation come from? Where did that reputation come from?
Reputation because of the factor that Mr. Randolph Burroughs, and I will defend him, because of the fact that he used to get the job done by any means, legal means necessary. That is where the factor came, the story come about. Oh, they used to kill men,
But
you see that.
But I want to ask you a question, right? Because,
yes.
And I'm just telling you what exists in the public space, and you could tell me what your view of that is. I want to tell you,
yes.
I have known members of the flying squad, and I have known others, and I am privy to some information that obviously I can't share without parliamentary privilege, so I won't even try it. But I wanna say to you, there were a lot of allegations of, especially when they were going after the Nuff guerrillas. You remember that?
Yes, I remember those there. Yes, very good.
And that the instructions was dead or alive, and that police used to walk with, and I'm saying again, this is rumor and allegation, I have no fact to back this up, that flying squad members used to walk with firearms to plant on people after they killed them. And it was always a bit suspicious that 1 or 2 or 3 men would open fire on a squad of 12 and 15 men. But that is no accounting for anybody else's intelligence and whether or not they did it or not. But I'm asking you, while you were a member and after you left, and we could keep this answer short, or you could go as in-depth as you want. But I want to tell you something again. I privy to a lot of information. And you could tell that. That's why you and I talking, right?
Yes.
While you were there or after, did you hear of any such claims or allegations?
Well, as you rightfully said, I'll make it short. These are just allegations that were made against hard-working members of the flying squad of Trinidad and Tobago. They are only allegations. Not one allegation was proven right in the law of God. None.
But this is Trinidad, right? I want to ask you, did you all at any time apprehend any known drug, narcotic importers, kingpins? Did you at any point in time have the opportunity to investigate the drug trafficking, the drug trade, the illegal narcotics trade from South America to Trinidad?
Yes, I will give you an example of one. One afternoon, a Friday afternoon on Independence Square, a sergeant from Flying Squad and myself was patrolling on the Independence Square in front of Salvatore Building. For those who know Salvatore Building. And this sergeant asked me, I was the driver, and he was my backup partner.
I need to ask you to not call. I need to ask you to not call any.
No, I'm not going to call names.
No third party names. Not at this point, okay?
No.
Okay.
In fact, I would never call names at any point in time. Yes, so I and a certain sergeant was patrolling. So he asked me, he said, stop. He came out of the vehicle, walked across the road, and arrested fair-skinned fellow. Well, I did not know who the gentleman was, or his origin, or ethnicity, or anything until he was brought back into the Jeep. When he came back to the Jeep, he had a pouch in front of him, and having searched the pouch, I found 2 pounds of cocaine. In those days it's pound. I found 2 pounds of cocaine and some U.S. money along with traveler's check.
Was he a Trinidadian?
We apprehend. No, the gentleman was a Venezuelan.
Okay.
So we apprehended the gentleman and took him to police headquarters on St. Vincent Street. That's the old building. When we were there, we processed the guy, and of course we had to call in Interpol because the gentleman was from a foreign country. The inspector at the time of Interpol was one Mr. Matura. It's a Carlos Matura, for those who know him again. And when I decided, or when I was going through this traveler's check and counting the U.S. money, it came up to $21,000 US plus 2 pounds of cocaine. Well, at least allegedly cocaine.
That was in 1980, right? Around 1980. Around 1980.
Yes, around the 1980s, yeah.
That is when a US dollar, that was when a US dollar was $1.36 to a TT, right?
Was close to, I think it was around that, but it was very minimal, yes, you're correct.
So we're talking about 1980 when a box of chicken and chips was $2. And a Coke,
That for sure. That one I remember, yes.
a Coke was 21 cents. A cold Coke was 21 cents and 4 coconut biscuit was 4 cents to make 25 cents. I remember those things. So 21,000 US dollars then. Nowadays, that would be about 200,000 US.
I would imagine so, yes.
All right, continue.
Well, when I was going through the traveler's check, I saw certain people named. I had to be very careful on
Yep.
speaking, you know.
Yep.
I saw certain people named from the West whose name was on the traveler's check. Listen to me carefully. Who authorized? Of course, when you have to issue a traveler's check, you have to sign it, correct?
Correct. And the reason for using traveler's checks the reason for using traveler's checks at that time was because US was hard to get, and we were under the ECO, the EC-10 regime. Yes.
Okay, well, that one I really didn't know much about. But anyway, when I checked it and I go through the name, well, I saw certain names, about 5 different names from the West. Of course, Mr. Carlos Matura was there at the time, so he ended up taking part in the investigation, or leading the investigation as such. And I told my sergeant, I said, but sir, look, we have this name, we have an address, we can locate the house or the address of the individuals. Why not let's get search warrant and go to the house? I mean, is it really logic and common sense you would do something like that?
Correct.
I was told by senior officers in CID Porter's Bay, if you do that, you are doing it on your own risk, and you end up in Matloto Togo in the morning. Being a junior officer, I did not have much say again into that investigation, especially that one.
The first devaluation that took our currency from 136 to 240 took place in 1983. Those of you who corrected me, Google and get your facts before you do that, because I know what I'm speaking about when I'm talking. Trinidad had an EC-10 regime at the time, and a lot of very prominent business people today were involved in another racket called the foreign exchange racket, which is going on today. I mean, what the name of this video is Corrupt from Conception. Nothing that you are going through now in Trinidad and Tobago is new, you know. None of this is brand new. No gang, no drugs, no guns, no foreign exchange. None of that is new. Corrupt government officials in law enforcement, facilitating, working with, none of that is new. And the only reason I have this gentleman talking on this tonight, because he can't call no names. This is not a court of law. We're not in a parliament. So he can't call no names. But he is saying to you, You're not going to ask you a very serious question, eh? Because Randolph Burroughs' name was called in the Scott Drug Report. And I know you're defending your commissioner, but were you aware of that?
Well, like I said, even Mr. Randolph Burroughs was taken before a law of court, and he was found not guilty. So I guess that explains everything.
Indeed.
I will continue. And there were certain personnel, individuals in the western region of Trinidad and Tobago that I held ever so often, occasionally, with hard drugs. And I mean hard drugs, by that I mean cocaine in those days. And they always used to, how should I say, we just say, well, pull rank. It's a term that they pull rank. And the first thing they used to say, tell me especially, as a junior officer, they used to tell me, don't you know who my parents are? And, they used to, try to pull rank on me and things. But I never let that deter me from doing my job.
Yeah, but your job was but no matter how you do your job, it went nowhere. Nobody's ever been properly prosecuted for any of those crimes in this country. So whether or not you did your job or not.
Very true.
That was the start of men. That was the start of men like Teddy Mice, Naim Nair, Dole Chedi around those days. Chedi was now coming out. Chedi was now making a name for himself.
I used to actually, when I work in the East region, when I patrol it, because like I said, we used to patrol all over Trinidad and Tobago. On many occasions, when I was detailed to patrol in the East, I used to go right in front of Rama Dijama.
Rama
He had a
Dijama.
club on Esikoro Road. Just I forget the name of the street. Just over Esikoro Road. And I used to park my Jeep along with my two other colleagues. I used to park my Jeep right in front of the club. And I used to go in and buy my little solo soft drink. I will park up there for 3 and 4 hours before I go on to my patrol and everything. I'll tell you one thing I did, Mr. Philip. I did my duty with favor, fear, or malice. Did it to the best of my ability. And there are officers in flying squad who did their job to the best of their
So then why, if it was so effective as an organization, why was it disbanded so hurriedly? Why did it collapse? What led to that?
There were a lot of political decision behind that. There were a lot of political decision behind that. I will give you an example of something, Mr. Alexander. Does anyone know for a fact that Mr. Randolph Burroughs never reported any, or like you have to report to the Minister of National Security over, like every month or every 2 days or whatever, or if there's something of major issue, you would report straight to the Minister of National Security. Mr. Randolph Burroughs used to report directly to the Prime Minister, Eric Williams.
Well, I see, I want to tell it this, right? That statement you just made, I know what you might be thinking. No, not that. But having worked closely with national security, I know that the police commissioner does not answer to the Minister of National Security, but that the PNM manipulated the system and blurred the separation of power to make that a reality. And Eric Williams took it upon himself to become, because he was heading to full-blown dictator and he wanted to control the police, and the way to control the police was to control the commissioner, and at that time it was Burroughs.
Exactly.
So a lot of the things that were going on, the Prime Minister, more than anybody else, was privy to that information. And some say it was Eric Williams who was guiding the hand of what Burroughs, and by extension, the flying squad did. Now, of the 110 men that was in the flying squad, this is not to say that all the men in the squad was either good or bad. Nowhere, no organization of humans has ever been all good or all bad. But in my family, there are people I'd rather not talk to. There are people in my family I'd rather not be related to. And I say that to you so that you understand that I understand human beings, and that the reputation that the flying squad got, it couldn't have just been because people didn't like Burroughs. Some people loved him.
Sure. And a matter of fact, majority of the people of Trinidad and Tobago admire and adore Mr. Randolph Burroughs. And I will tell you something, Mr. Philip. Mr. Randolph Burroughs was a person who used to fight, defend, legally, lawfully, any law enforcement officer of Trinidad and Tobago. Whether you be in the prisons, fire, army, or police. Mr. Randolph Burroughs, in other words, his philosophy is you don't ever attack, touch, harm, or attempt to maim any law enforcement officer. Not only police, any law enforcement officer. And that's what I admire about him.
Now, I have no doubt that he started off with the best of intentions. But this is my question to you, right? Because I asked this question of an ex-prime minister. I've asked it of ministers who have held senior positions in this country. In a nation notorious for corruption, white-collar crime, at the highest level, racketeering, in a country notorious for drug trafficking on an international level. How is it possible that we've never brought anybody to justice over the 58 years that this country is in existence?
One simple answer. The answer to that is because of political decision and affiliation.
I'll leave it there for now. We're going to talk again, I'm going to leave it there for now. I want to ask you one more question. If you have anything else to add after this, you could. I want to ask you one more question. And I want you to answer me this question. So at no time in your service in the flying squad did you observe any illegal activity among members of the squad?
The objective word there you say was observe, and I personally have never observed any illegal activities that was conducted or accepted or carried out by any member of the flying squad. It does not say it never happened, but I can say that I have never observed that because I was, like I said, I do my work without favor, fear, or malice. And I was a guy like, if, for example, a senior officer or any officer bringing a man into the the unit, and he allegedly say, well, look, sir, or he call upon me and say, listen, I just found this gun on this guy. I want you to charge him for possession of firearm. I told a certain officer, I say, I am not going to charge this gentleman for firearm possession of it, illegal possession. I did not see when you arrested this gentleman with the firearm in his possession. So I am not going to charge him for it. And these are the things that I disagreed with certain officers in the flying squad, and not only the flying squad, in CID policy.
What you call giving a man a case?
Well, yes. And I stood up for my...
I listened to Prakash Ramadan.
Right.
I listened to Prakash Ramadan stand up in the parliament at the height of the email gate debate to speak of himself as an attorney who was informed by one batch of police that another batch of police was about to go to a minister's house to find certain things in the minister's water tank. And
yes, it happened. Mr. Philip, I would leave you with one simple statement, and I would not call names, but I would give you an example. One night, a certain high-profile jeweler from Port of Spain went to a Minister of National Security house with a briefcase in his hand. How do I know? I was present on a cover. And he reached there about between 1 and 2 in the morning. And he went to this minister house. There was a uniform officer.
What year was this?
Good question. If I give it in, I could give it
Right.
No, I'm not going to do it here. That's what I'm saying. So you would have an idea what year it was, but I'm not going to give it in here over here. Anyway, and the gentleman went in with a briefcase. I don't know what the briefcase had in it, what the contents was in it. He went into the minister's home. After the uniform officer did make a call and say, look, so-and-so is here to see you. And after observing for about 15 to 20 minutes, the same jeweler left the Minister of National Security House or home empty-handed. I am just saying what I saw.
But it could have been a briefcase of some good dalpery. We don't know. We don't have the minister exactly, so we can't speculate. It could be anything, right? Okay. And we could. You see, if I press you like that, you will give me the information. But I'm not pressing you. I'm not pressing you right now. I just want to say this thing, right? I want to say thank you very much for being available. I'm happy that you are out of this country, so you're beyond the reach of people who may want to stop anybody talking about any late night dalpery deliveries. So I want to tell you thanks a lot for this initial conversation. And you and others, we will be talking again. We'll be putting together a panel. But I want to give you an opportunity in closing to say whatever you want to say for this first time. I mean, a lot of people listening to you, a lot more will listen as the video gets shared. And so you could talk your talk and take as much time as you need.
Okay. I want to say I support the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Gary Griffith, very strongly. And to all the law enforcement officers of Trinidad and Tobago, all, I'm coming like a certain gentleman say, all. I want to say, emphasize on all officers of Trinidad and Tobago. Please be safe. I would say that as a born trainer, I appreciate the service and dedication that you guys put out there. And I wish you guys the best of the health and the safety to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And to the very few rogue officers, I am beseeching you guys, remember this, especially certain prisoner officers. Remember this, when you allow contraband to go into the prisons, you are not only jeopardizing other prison officers' life, you are jeopardizing your own family life and your other brother prison officers. So please, the test, it does not work for a few dollars now and lose your whole pension of 50, 20, 30 years service. I'm begging you guys, please get all the act together. And if you see something illegal, and we say in America here, you see something, say something. Not like the Prime Minister who says, see something, say something, and then he come back and say, you mustn't say anything. Mr. Philip, I want to thank you very much for this opportunity. And again, like I said, I want to say, I wish all of Trinidad and Tobago a healthy season, especially with this pandemic. And to all the farmers out there and around the world, have a blessed, wonderful, happy Father's Day. Thank you, Mr. Philip.
Thank you, my friend. Thanks a lot. Now, when I talk, I say things that lets you know what I know. There are people who will come on the live video and ask me, if you get into office, will you still be this accessible? Will you still want these things? Will you still do these things? I watch peons, shit snakes, jokes in the parliament. I mean, the majority of people in our current parliament can't hold a candle to me. They can't debate me. They can't have a conversation with me privately, publicly. And the reason for saying that is not arrogance. If I wanted office for office sake, if those little, I mean, literally, look at the parliament. Look at the last 4 parliaments. Look at the last 4. And look at the type of muppets we've ended up with in the parliament, who before they go in the house are handed a script by whichever side is in office, by their chief whip, and says, you talking about that today. And they're going in there and talking about that. They know nothing about it. The first time they're hearing about it is when they're reading about it. And they're doing that. So if you think that I'm still doing this, trying to get into government, I had to say, for the 4 years that it took to build the Progressive Empowerment Party, I had to tell people who, the PNM trolls that would accuse us of being UNC and the UNC trolls who would accuse us of being PNM, I said, listen, we climbing this mountain cliff face first in a country where the population is racist, tribal, corrupt, or easily corrupted. Now, everybody would like to think that can't fall in my garden. But check yourself. You'd be surprised if you examine the decisions that you've made over time, what it actually says about you. And one of the things that I've learned, I was such a follower of Wayne Dyer. And if you don't know who Wayne Dyer is, D-Y-E-R, you could Google him after. But I was such a follower of his. His family were my friends on Facebook. I never said that before tonight. And Wayne Dyer said once, and I will never forget, when you rationalize something, you have to tell yourself rational lies. And I know people in the parliament today whose, from the prime minister down, whose words today contradict their positions and their utterances from yesterday. I know, I have first-hand information. There are people in the parliament that I was neighbor to and sit down and drink with normal. And I want to tell you this. It's not easy to stand up for this country. When politicians sell their soul, I understand. I understand why you sell your soul. It is an easier road. This is the road less traveled. Fighting this fight this long is the road less traveled. This is what the Bible calls, this is the hard road. It's not easy. There's a road, smooth, paved with the best of dirty intentions. And still, I can't promise you that anything we're doing could bear fruit. Trinidad was set up to feel, this gentleman, he gave no information. I just let him dance close to the fire for you. He was in the flying squad. If you don't know me, I'll tell you something. I could have prosecuted that conversation and he'd have given you information tonight, even if he didn't want to. But that was not the intention. But I wanted you to know, and I could give you shows like this every night. There was a time Satish and I was doing this every night. Former ministers, prime ministers, anybody. Right? And we would press the conversation. But if to the people who are looking on to the show, if to them this is entertainment and not information, to guide them, to make informed choices, to empower them to make better choices, if this is just entertainment, then I'm wasting my time. I am demonstrating that I am very capable, and I have demonstrated that for a long time. I am very, very capable. I am knowledgeable. I know things that other people speak of that they overhear. I know it almost firsthand. I am related to the people who I infer have information that they could share that would make this country better. It cannot fix. If I get pushback for spitting on Franklin Can, for being the criminally corrupt son of a bitch that he was. And PNM people, or supporters of the PNM, would come at me. And when I look at their conditions, even with their handout, even with their help, even with their Balize card getting them a free water connection, a free electricity connection, or a HTC house, or a 2-job or a 3-job. There was a man in Maraval. He had 3 CPEP contracts that only exist on paper, that's only pay him. That's all it pays. He don't do nothing for it. They have information in this country. If you started to pull at any thread, but the audience who watched the press conference today, you get frustrated. And you want to think that the journalists don't know how to ask a question. But what you don't know is the journalists who get into that press conference are handpicked. They're screened. Those questions are screened beforehand. And it is a difficult time in this country when we are heading down a slippery slope. And again, I could leave everything I own in the world right here. Just the clothes on my back. Step off this island. And wherever I land, I could build myself back alive in quick time. Not only because I have strong connections all over the world, but because of my own capacity, my ability. I could start anywhere and build myself up from nothing. I have no fear for that. And I've known how corrupt these people are. You think, to the people who, this same gentleman, we had a conversation. He said, Mr. Alexander, I pray for you every day. I don't want to say that I know how criminal this country is, but I'm aware. And what is hard is that there are people in public office who could fix all of it, who are just as aware of it, and are doing nothing about it. And when you go to vote, you make choices. Listen, I'm trying to answer some of these WhatsApps. What you're all asking for is not possible. So, and take that as a collective. This is not the parliament. We don't have privilege. So you could say what you know and I could say what I know and we just amused each other. It does nothing. Without a proper vote, and I just want to check on a couple people here. Without a proper vote for a proper government, nothing is going to change. Nothing. Father's Day is tomorrow. And this whole country turns on what fathers do next. It turns on that. We have a lot of children growing up in this country whose fathers are dead or in jail, and because of choices that they make in a limited situation. And it's easy to stand outside of that situation when you have many choices and you have many options. And again, This is the conundrum of me. Because a lot of things that I fight for, they're not my condition. I am just hyper aware of the circumstance and the situation. I'm hyper aware. And I'm fighting for people who have been broken so badly in their minds that they can't even see their condition. They can't recognize their condition. You beat a man enough that all you need to do is stop beating him, and you're his hero, you know. There are people who believe that the restraint of power is the best use of power. Harriet Tubman, who was a slave, who escaped, and people talk about escaping slavery like you step off of a plantation in a country that is broken up into plantations. So the only people who coming down the road on a horse or a carriage are people who represent the plantation system. You're hardly likely to bounce up other runaway slaves on the road and you could link up and get some assistance. Knowing where to go in a strange land, in a place where if you were brought there, you don't know anything else but that plantation. Or if you were born there, you know less. You don't know the first country, you don't know the sea, you have no memory of the journey to come there. You have the fence, the boundaries of that plantation is your whole world. So if you step off of that, to know which direction to go and to run away from slavery is almost certain death. They bring you back to the plantation and they hang you. Or worse. And they had a lot of things they used to do worse. In Trinidad and Tobago, we had Count Lopino, who was a disgusting disease of a man, who would nail people by their ears to a tree and then cover them with honey or molasses and let the bachaks take them until you can't take no more and you rip off your 2 ears to come off that tree to get away from the bachak bites. We've had people in this country, Trinidad, that sting, that disease. So for somebody to say they're going to escape the plantation, a person has a real belly. That's like you putting on a blindfold and heading down the road. Don't know where you're going. Stepping off into the wild blue yonder, and you don't know where you're going and where you're going to end up. And along the way, they have the biological imperatives that you have a certain amount of time without food before you die. You have a certain amount of time without water before you die. Air, water, food, in that order. Air, water, food. And you need those 3 things as a biological imperative. Without those 3 things, you die. You could go a longer time without food. You could go a certain amount of time without water. You can't go no time at all without air. And the reason for saying that is there's no McDonald's along the way. There's no Subway. There's no KFC drive-thru. You're walking or running or hiding, and you're heading to a destination that you have no idea where you're going. And I say all of that to tell you that when Harriet Tubman got herself safe, when she, by whatever direction God in heaven gave her, when she got herself somewhere safe, the first thing she did was to go to rescue others. That in itself was a risk. There were slaves in the plantation who got special treatment from Massa to report on any activities of the other slaves. There were slaves that would have turned you in. Massa, look, she reached back and helped them hang you. So she took chance after chance to go back and rescue slaves. And she is famous for saying, I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves. And the first time I read that, understanding, because I've read a lot about slavery and the conditions, and I mean, there was this story somebody told me about this guy, this slave, and he was so good with the children in the family that they taught him basic reading, and he could read words. But he was not shackled. He went everywhere with massa, and he was treated like not a slave. But in a society where you have to treat slaves like slaves if you're out in public, because it's a law. And he was driving Master's carriage, and Master fall asleep, and they reached into the town, and he was coming to an intersection, and there was a stop sign. And if he had stopped the carriage, Master would have to hang him for knowing what stop meant, because he's not supposed to be able to read. Being able to read was punishable by death. So he had to barrel right through and risk his life. And that's just a story to make the point of how difficult it was at the time. And there are people who have said that slavery went on 300 years longer than it should have, because of how difficult it was for the slaves themselves to embrace the concept of personal responsibility. You have a responsibility to free yourself. That's your first responsibility. Free yourself. And that's what I know to be the truth. And I look at some people who, they're so ignorant of their condition, bless their souls, they're not aware that they're ignorant of their conditions. They have nothing worse than not knowing and not knowing that you don't know. And they're so ignorant of their condition. They ask me, you have nothing else to do with your time? There's a lot of things I could do with my time. My brother, who was an advisor to the Trump White House, he tells me on a daily basis, why are you wasting your time there? Why? That's what he asked me. There's so many issues in the world. He said, what you want is to be an activist? There's so many issues in the world that you could put your time and your energy and your treasure and your brain to, and you're fighting in a country to free people who don't know they're in bondage. So when other members came aboard and we formed a Progressive Empowerment Party, I said, my mission is to inform, educate, and empower. I will impart everything I know for free on a daily basis, sometimes twice a day. I'll just give it away, and I'll give it away and give it away. I've hammered it home. I hear other people outside. I know it's borne fruit. There are other people now who are standing up, who are speaking. I hear my words. I see the UNC put out a response to the Prime Minister today, and somebody read it and sent it back and said, Philip, if you stop speaking, what the opposition gonna write? And that's fair. That's fair commentary. But you know what I don't want to be? I don't want to be somebody who needs a pat on the back for doing something. So I said to Satish the other day, I said, look, they're fighting us on Facebook. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make all of my content free to use. Whether you put my name or not, whether you acknowledges me or not. At the end of the day, I'm not really supposed to be doing this for props, for likes, and for shares. At 54, at this point, my only concern is, can we get to a place where we fix this country? That's my only concern. And we need to evaluate it, and we will have our opportunity as soon as the state of emergency is over. because I walked 8 hours from Arima and prepared to walk again. And I want to see all those who want to walk as well. Because to fix this country, my foot hurt me still. It's going to hurt me again. And I am aware that to fix this country is to stand against friends and family, former neighbors, is to cast aside any real opportunity, is to embrace all the pushback that comes, all the victimization, the threats and all the fear. But if not us, who? Who stands up for Trinidad and Tobago? Who stands up for the people? Who says to the people that this could fix? Who goes through each and every issue that is an issue of the day and breaks it down and says, listen, this is why that's not good. This is what went wrong historically. This is what is wrong systemically. And this is what should be. And this is how you could get what should be to happen. That's a conversation that you don't get from any other politician. Not one. We've had a tussle with WASA over disconnection. Now, my only position on WASA and the disconnection now is time. The timing. That WASA should be made to free water. Water is important for fighting COVID-19. WASA should be turning back on standpipes. Where every business putting up a sink and a soap, WASA should be doing the same. It's our water. It's our tax dollars that paying WASA from the Minister of Public Utilities to the board come right down to the smallest employee in the Water and Sewage Authority. And the government, by a statement today, it don't require an act of parliament, it don't require a new law. The Prime Minister could have said from today, WASA is billing nobody. Or, from today, WASA is billing no residential customers. At least start there. Only 10% of WASA's throughput goes to residential customers. Only less than 8% of the debt is residential customers. All the rest, state or corporate customers. So why are you making such an effort to go after the smallest piece of the puzzle? I don't get that. Is it hate? Is it control? Are you trying to break people? Are you forcing them to riot? Is it that you want martial law? Is that where you're trying to go? Are you looking for ways and means to see what it will take until people just can't take no more? To unleash government boots on them that they pay for? Is that what? Is that a game? Or is it that we just have people in office that are either heartless or incompetent, and that's just it? They're just heartless and they're just incompetent. Every time I hear Colm Imbert speak, I just wonder, what would it take to invent a time machine, to go back in time and just hand his father a condom? So just for tonight. Just for tonight. Try this. Every time he speaks, the statements that he makes, that it doesn't begin with the preface, I am a member of the People's National Movement who has led a rape and plunder of this country's wealth for all of the 58 years. Even when the UNC was in office, we controlled the state machinery behind the scenes. We were controlling certain local government agencies. We had the ability to still continue to loot and plunder when we wasn't in government. I am a member of that People's National Movement. So I want to start by apologizing to you, but we don't even get that. We don't even get that. A woman in an abusive relationship, she's get cuff and kick in her face, but then she's get some flowers and maybe a royal castle before the next set of cuff. We don't even get the flowers and the royal castle. And to say what I just said about how I feel about Colm Imbert is to tell you that when it comes to Keith Rowley, multiply that by 1,000 times infinity. Because it is that deviant soul that has called Membert as the Minister of Finance. For whatever reason. All the shit always talk on Facebook, who have secrets for who, it doesn't matter. Because what they are sitting their asses on are seats that you own. Every public official that speaks to you, a citizen of this republic, has to do so with a respectful understanding that it is you that own the country and pay the salaries that they live on. And until you get it, they don't have to respect it. They don't even have to know it. There are at least 15 people in this government that are outright jokes. I mean, they're not even the punchline, they're just a joke. And then you look across the aisle and you see what the UNC had to settle for. I mean, as much as I would like to try, I tell the 510,000 supporters of the UNC that fill up my inbox and my WhatsApp and they message me, oh God, Philip, you and Kamala work together, and I feel you and Kamala, I can't, because of people like Dave Tanko and Rodney Charles, that I know that as long as they are there, see, I am not a person that could lie to myself. I could lie to you maybe, but I can't lie to myself, and I will try to do it. And David Mackey tell me, boy Philip, if you could only just stay the course with them. I can't. I'd like to, but I can't understand how the United National Congress, that sees itself as different to the People's National Movement, that wants the public who are not diehard sycophantic yellow fever drinkers to take them seriously and then offer them Rodney Charles or Dave Tanko. And I will stop at those two, but there are more on the list. How could they want you, who are not a card-carrying member of the UNC, to take them seriously if Dave Tanko is telling people he is the next leader of the UNC? Now, I want to tell you something. I wouldn't follow Dave Tanko out of a fire. I tell you honestly. And Rodney Charles, he is a punchline for a joke. You can write the joke yourself. Rodney Charles is the punchline. These people have outlived their usefulness, whatever usefulness they had. And the fact that Kamala Persad-Bissessar is only involved in negotiations that allows her to continue on as opposition leader in name only. Is there a single person in this country confident that Kamala could take on Keith Rowley and this rampaging horde that is the PNN? Is there a person who believes that she has the capacity? I see the hope people who support the UNC look to people like Jerlene John and Saddam and Vandana and them and Anita. And I know and I feel it for them. Because you want to tell yourself, you're trying to take out a screw. The best screwdriver you find is the first screwdriver you put your hand on. And if it's the only screwdriver you have, then you have to try and make it work. And that's what people doing. People trying to make it work. When the best politicians in the country, the most capable and bright minds are outside of the party, and the party fighting them. People like Susan, forget me completely. But I keep saying, what is wrong with the UNC that it cannot do a deal with Michaela Pandey? Forget what you want to think about her. Forget what you want to think about the Pandey name and all of you who've been driven to hate her. She has name recognition. Now, Michaela Pandey and I, we are opposites in a court matter. But I am defending still intelligence and sense. She brings so much more by her name and her ability than the majority in the parliament now. Bar's days gone. He's run out of days. He's on borrowed time. So whatever his intention is, and all of us could want, and I believe, like he tried with Kelvin Ramnath, with Winston Dukaran, with Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj, with Gillian Lucky, with Jack Warner. Pandit tried to use anybody who would stop and say, hey, Baz, how you going? He tried to stick them in. Look, I want to hide behind you and still control the power. That's why he ended up losing the party to Kamala in the first place. So whatever his intentions to hide behind Michaela and use her, Pandey out of time. He can't buy more days. No matter how many devils he slept with. As Vernon de Lima says all the time, you're in the waving gallery. You have to know. Let her have her career. But I'm saying, imagine the UNC if Michaela and Suzette Lauer was part of that front line. Imagine that. She's a barrister. Michaela's a barrister. Suzette has a following, a massive following. Why you can't get... Look at Winston Ragu. Joke and fun aside, Winston Ragu is one of the hardest working activists out there now. The UNC settled for Gard Christopher and Alan Karim over Winston Ragu. And Gard Christopher and Alan Karim can't get an audience if they set themselves on fire. Winston Ragu, on an average day, with his average videos, thousands of people. Look at Stefan Rees. You're hearing the boy talking politics. You're hearing that he is not happy. You can't make a deal with him. I'll tell you why all those names can't make a deal with the UNC as it exists. Because the UNC now is rotten in the core. And it has no leadership that can clean that. So the 510,000 supporters who just got the political equivalent of an erection when I was talking these things, they say, yeah, fuck, we're going to win. We will win. You can't get it if your party is rotten to the core. And you are carrying on. This is how UNC supporters going through life, like this. This is how UNC supporters going through life. Rowley going to do something so bad that people going to have no choice but to vote for her. That's it. We're doing that. That's it. Crossing your fingers is not a political strategy. Hitting hard and hoping doesn't work. The only thing that works is a publicly known plan that the United National Congress is willing to work with everybody to fix the country. And that when you talk about the things that were done wrong on your watch, own them. Because they're still floating around. No matter what you say, they're still floating and biting you in your ass. So for every AV oil that you could tell the PNM, they're telling you Anan. And that just as open and festering. And you have no answer. And they're telling you SIS and Beatam wastewater treatment plant and who in Panama. And they're telling you about the Salcott that was built as a corrupt enterprise under the first UNC and got an extension on their contract without their contract being due under the second one, under the People's Partnership. All of this is why the rest of the country cannot take the United National Congress seriously. And it is why the party has no traction. Nobody is taking them on. You can't mend fences with Michaela. Rocky Garcia built his whole fleeting political career bashing PNM and Keith Rowley. That was Rocky Walk. That was his whole, and I remember I said, listen, bash them. Call PNM sufferation. Black people have to come out from under this, all of that. 2 elections now, Rocky is Rowley's biggest champion. Waving flag for him in town. Whoever he get for it, if he get anything at all, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, Timothy Hammersmith said something to me. He said politics is about winning, you know. He said, unless you can get into government and do the things you want to do, it's just wishful thinking. If you can't win the election, you can't do it. And to the Trinidadians who are so lazy in their mind, who think that they don't want to get involved politically to do the work that is required to fix things to get the government party elected, think that they will riot. Rioting is more work, and rioting is painful. Pepper spray, the army don't need the government to give them permission. The army have pepper spray, the police have pepper spray. Tonight, I was making garlic and pimento and parsley with olive oil, because tomorrow I'm going to roast some chicken and some steaks and some lamb chops and things. And the half Arab in me just put my garlic. Now, it's just garlic oil is all you're supposed to put. Crush up the garlic and oil, olive oil, and we open flame, and that's to me, right? But I have, over time, tweaked the recipe, and I include parsley and some pimento peppers. Now, Wayne Ram of Trissa Hydro Farm has been supplying us with our salad bags, as you know, $100. And one of the things that come in the salad bags are pimento peppers. But he has some pimento peppers that have a different shape to what you know is a pimento pepper. So it looks like a hot pepper, it's bigger than a bird pepper, smaller than a pimento pepper, with a shape like a coffee pepper. So I just have to open them to know if this is a pimento pepper or not. And tonight, in the bowl of peppers that I had in the drawer, 6 of them, because there were 7 peppers, 6 of them were pimento peppers. 1 was a hot pepper. And if my face looking tanned, it's because just to break it open and touch my tongue on it, I had to drink a whole box of milk. And my hands, everything I touch, burning. And I wash my hands with milk. I wash my hands with cream. My hands, they've never been this smooth, because I use all kind of jergens. But the pepper, still, I touch my face. Afraid to touch my eyes. And I'm saying this there. And that's just crack it open, touch my tongue on it. And that is a coffee pepper. The pepper in pepper spray is scorpion pepper. It will destabilize you. Those of you who think that you going out there to riot, change your mind. Rioting is not easy. We're not set up for that in Trinidad. What we need to do is make ourselves available to be enlightened, to use that enlightenment to enlighten others, inform, educate, and empower others. And listen, we don't have to not have water. Yeah, but UNC didn't give me water either. Well, maybe, but we still have to keep trying. I don't have an answer for you. I tried the route of building a party. I hear Suzette and them talking about building a party. And I want to disabuse them of that notion. It is not. We had a meeting the other night. All the senior PEP members. And everybody gung-ho. People ringing up their phone. Boy, if we only knew. And that is heady wine. That's heady wine. People calling me and saying, tell your boss we're ready. I know. Again, I like to quote people. Joyce Meyer say, a man woke up there and tell her, I'm playing the lotto every week, and if I win, that 50 million is yours. She said, I can't get you to give me the $20 in your pocket now. You'll give me the 50 million when you get it. People's intentions need to match their actions, and you'll know when they're serious. When you see people step away from the cults, and the cults will know. When people reject them out of hand, not halfway, 1 foot in this camp, 1 foot in that camp. We with you, we with you, Phil, but come election time, somebody just have to dog whistle and say something to frighten you. Your mother losing she food card, your father losing the HTC work. And you're back there, all Zandali find their hole. Because that's what they've done. And they've bought your vote for cheap. And you don't want to take a chance. The people who's called me on the phone, Phil, I have something for you, bust this mark. I say, I'm calling to interview you. No. I can't use my name, you're mad? You know, they got victimized, so it's okay to victimize me. That's what you're saying. I'm less valuable than you. No, you strong out there. Bullshit. I'm not strong out there. Inchan Ishmael not strong out there. Winston Ragu not strong out there. We've decided to put country first. Ian Ale and Suzette Lawa, those are people that have decided to put country first. I disagree with things that others say. But big picture tells me that the only way forward is with a proper team. Trinidad has never had a real government. For 30 years, we've had racist PNM Eric Williams. It was the most tribal and destructive government the country's ever had. We've never recovered from it. 1990, that attempted coup was a direct result of PNM Eric Williams politics. And the NAR was a coming together of everybody to get the PNM out. That was the mission. They never long game. Everybody had a plan. All these people who came and joined up, Tapia and Jack, ULF, everybody. ONR, DAC, everybody had an ideology, a philosophy, a plan, a goal, and a bunch of leaders, all of them. So they get together with one goal, get the PNM out, win that election. And they did. And after that happened, okay, what now? They didn't have a clue going forward. They didn't know what they were for and what they were against. Some might have been okay with, I hear people say the drug economy is the alternate economy, Phil. People had to eat. People say these things. So you imagine you end up now in a cabinet of all of these groups to find out you all have diametrically opposite views on important things. The party start to break. It start to fracture. People say things in public. The media misquote somebody and an argument start. This one is talking to that one. This one want to take all the Indians and go. Club 88 is formed. Now, without the United Labour Front vote, all the other people, and Carl Hudson Phillips had said that, without the United Labour Front, and Bastio Pandey knew that, but he didn't know how to handle power. Bastio Pandey didn't even know how to handle power when he was Prime Minister. He didn't know what he was doing then. He was fighting against for so long. He fought against the NAR, inside the NAR. The UNC under Bastio Pandey lost because Bastio Pandey created an enemy with Ramesh Lawrence Maraj and Team Unity and Sadiq Bash and Ralph Maraj and Trevor Sudama and, well, Sadiq for a minute. And that war, the PNM had to step back. The UNC was going to break itself like it broke the NAR. All of this, they have people who want to say, boy, F you, Phil. No problem, F me. But it's still truth, it's still fact, it's still history, and it's still available to you. And if we can't learn from our own history, what do we think is going to happen down the road? When the only thing you're thinking about is get the PNM out, it don't matter, get them out. Okay, you get them out. This is day 2. What now? All of you who say, oh, they can't work together. It is not an easy thing. Ideology is a serious, serious thing. You see how I feel about corruption? How against corruption I am? If I am in a government and ministers in that government are corrupt, you think I could stay and defend that? You think I have any amount of rationalizing or take one for the team I could? I cannot do those things. That's why I'm not in the PNM. Simon de Nobrega is in a seat that was Amory Brown's seat. It was to be given to Justin Phelps and all of those names that call after mine. Because at the time when they were kicking Amory Brown out, and that's another example, Rowley and Amory Brown hate each other. Amory Brown, the first time I met that man, he called me for a meeting because there was a time when the People's Partnership was in office that my voice was a very powerful voice. I had a bigger voice than the then PNM opposition, as it is today with the UNC opposition. So I understand it better now, because I'm a grown-up now. I went through this before. And Amy Brown, who was a member of parliament, called me to have a meeting and sat down and told me the worst things about Keith Rowley and why he must have his balize tie. And if Keith Rowley think, and the PNM was destroying itself in opposition. The only reason it won the election in 2015 is because the UNC was busy destroying itself more. And all of those, Glenn Ramadas Singh, Chandra Sharma, Anand Ram Logan, Gary Griffith, Stacey Roop-Narayan, Timothy Hamilton, all of it, all of the purges, all of the breaks, all of the fractures, Anil Roberts, all of that was internal UNC business, and all of it was UNC fighting itself. That party doesn't do well with power. It doesn't do well with power. They don't like each other enough that when they have power, they just want to mash up the place. Look at where they are now. And I know people don't want to hear that. There are people who say, come on, Philip, cross your fingers with us now, man. We could do this. Come on board. Day 2. We've beaten the PNM. We're in offices. We time now. What else? How does the country change? Because that's the only reason I could still be considering politics. How does the country change? How does Morva, Beatam, Lavantil, and Sila fight them? They may vote for we. But if you don't fix them, what's the point of you? If you can't be better than your enemy, what's the point of you? If you could point out to them that you're only so because of the PNM, but you can't get fixed with the UNC, what's the point of you? What's the point of them thinking you have a value? And until we get a government that could ignore the petty political attacks, because there's a difference between politics and governance. And all I ever wanted was 5 years to fix all of it. Fix education, fix healthcare, fix national security, secure the borders, fix jobs, the social development master plan, public utilities, capture, hold, treat, distribute. There's a contract that somebody needs to get to go through Trinidad from end to end and take down all the TSTT lampposts. There is no more TSTT phones. There is millions of tons of line hanging in the air that we don't need. There is cable from companies that don't exist 20 years now, still up there in the sky. And somebody need to start from Toco or from Tetron, come back and take down everything that is not an electric wire. The country, just look at it. Look at it. Stop making excuses for your side. Just look at it. And ask yourself, hearing your prime minister use Haiti, we're better than Haiti, as a defense of his failure. People ask me, are you doing a recap today? Recap what? That whole press conference was a press release. They're not saying they failed, but their numbers say they failed. So you know they failed. Right? The cook don't have to tell you he's a bad cook if every time you go to eat the chicken burn. You know, he know, the chicken know. So everybody know. So when Rowley and Steffi Graf Hines and 3W Trotman, I mean, I listening to these people and I'm thinking, if it wasn't for political appointments, their careers lost. These are not what you call overachievers. So to listen to Parashram, I mean, they're led by Diyal Singh, and I never listen to Diyal Singh. If something is falling from the sky that's going to squash me, and Diyal Singh is the person to tell me, I get squashed. Because I never, in my life, today, the only person that is mute faster than Diyal Singh is Imbert. I don't ever want to hear their voices. They disgust me. They sicken me on a personal level. That people like that hold office in this country that cause so much pain. We talk about 700 deaths because our government just hardened, because our healthcare is so corrupt that tents for $5 billion more important than saving lives. You expect me to want to hear a word coming out your mouth? They are led by a pharmacist in a pandemic. And that's not me knocking pharmacists. In fact, now is the time for the pharmacists. You should let all the pharmacies distribute the vaccine. Let the pharmacies do that. That's when you could have bring the pharmacists in. All right, let me organize the network of pharmacies. We will use them to distribute vaccines throughout the country. But everything Keith Rowley said in the last press conference, he lied. And we found out in this press conference. And between the last press conference and this press conference, what we saw, the epic failure of the entire government that costs us $100 million a year, the epic failure of the government to administer something as simple as to organize a vaccination drive should tell you everything you need to know. I put out a petition called Keith Rowley, Fire Yourself. Whether you all sign it or not matters not, you know, but I've put out a petition. To me, in my mind, I have done everything that I could have done. My father told me, bloom where you're planted, so I'm here. To whom much is given, much is expected. I've given all of it. I haven't used it. I haven't used my talents to feather my nest. Everything that I've done politically or as an activist helped the least and the lowest. So I'm aware the Diego Martin Highway bypass, that's me. So every time somebody, including me, goes Diego Martin on an evening and don't have to sit for 3 hours in traffic, I could rest assured I contributed to my community. And I contributed to a level where the homeless have benefited, the handicapped have handicapped parking spaces, because I am an activist and I'm proud of that. The orphans get subventions from the state before the Jericho project. 28 years ago, the state was putting orphans in homes and not giving the people no money to mind them. So the staff was thieving whoever donations was getting. Now they gain subventions. Now they can mind the people a little better. And that happens because I was enough of an activist to put 25,000 people in the road for the Akil Chambers Justice for Children March, that forced Glenn Ramadan Singh to go in that parliament and pull out that dusty children's bill and pass it into law and fund the Children's Authority to set it up. And since then, we don't have the amount of killing and murdering that we were having for children. And that is important. The dangerous dog bill that I fought for. And I know there have people outside there, give them a chance. They make children with the dog, you know, the hybrids. They love the dog more than people and all that kind of shit. I don't mind. You could do what you want. My concern was the amount of people breeding pit bulls and all of these dangerous dogs, and they were accidentally killing innocent people. And since that dangerous dog bill put the responsibility on the owner of the dogs, no more deaths from dangerous dogs. And that was the goal. And the candlelight vigil, that candlelight movement, that one candle, and I didn't let it end. No matter what, I didn't let it end. And now they pass a law, women could get pepper spray, and it's not going to end. I'm sitting on 128,500 petitions, and one of the people who call themselves Prime Minister at some point will take ownership of that. And we will make sure that we protect our women. So the dangerous dog bill and the Children's Authority that protect the children, and we organize for the orphans and the homeless and the disabled. I think that I've done a lot. I think that my career, I think my resume is strong. I think I could stand up in the face of prime ministers and say, what you do for my country? What you do with your time? What you do with your talents? What you did for free? There's mine. Whip out yours. Because for the people who are outside there that want to attack me, and hey, I can give you many reasons to attack me. I'm not no perfect man. But I'll tell you this. when it comes down to who put the most on the line and did the most for this country, I could stand, not with pride, but proud. I could stand proud knowing that as per my father's instruction, to whom much is given, much is expected. I have given what was in front of me, and I have stood strong in the face of all of it. And I'm content with that. If my brother tell me, come, let me go and fix water in Africa or try and solve plastics in the ocean, sure. Because I'm content knowing that there's not a single politician in my memory or alive that has done more for this country for nothing than me. And I'm okay now. So these live videos, that guy, that interview, whether it happen or not, whether you all do something about it or not, doesn't matter. I operate at a level where I could see my blessings, but I know that if I alone blessed and I leave others behind, then my blessing is a curse. The theory of Ubuntu, if all of us not happy, none of us should be happy. If all of us not eating, we're not doing it right. We're not doing it right. If President Paula May Weeks don't get that, and don't say, look, from January 2020 to now, this is all of the money you'll have given me. Put it to work for the poor. If she don't get that, who is me to tell her? Who is me? I'm not the president. You are. But think of the power of that as an action. Think of that. We could be a better country. Make no mistake about it. We could be a perfect example of snatching victory from the jaws of constant and continuous defeat. We have had 58 years of political abuse and governmental mismanagement and malpractice. It is a joke. Right now, there is a meeting of CARICOM that excludes Trinidad and Tobago. We are not on the list, and we are the head. Our Prime Minister is the head of CARICOM. But nobody outside of Trinidad and Tobago wants to have anything to do with anybody from this government. The Guyanese people are openly slapping Rowley back. Barbados don't want nothing to do with him because he made a mess of that. And you're making a mockery of this country to the world. And our only friends are the criminal barbarian states. Enter New Trinidad, friend and family of China, Venezuela, Iran, and Russia. In what bizarre world did I wake up that this could be our truth? And yours too. And for all the things that I said tonight, F me twice. When somebody leaves Trinidad and Tobago, they find a happiness that they could have never had here. They come back for Carnival because they miss home. In the song Cuando Salí de Cuba, they say, it is the dream of every man to return to the land of his birth, to walk where he used to run. And there's a truth. There's a truth to that. And if ever I have to leave my country, I will look back and remember, because I know every crack on the sidewalks of the places that I've lived. And I know my country. And I take you all on tours. I took you all on tour down to Mayaro, and I took you all on tour to Toko. And I love Trinidad and Tobago in my heart. I wanted this to be a better country. All of this fight was for that. All of this fight was for that. And along the way, even the people who hate me would have benefited spectacularly. Because my only purpose is to say to my father, I did it. That's what drove my brother to not just be a doctor, to be the best at what he does. If my brother was the Minister of Health of Trinidad and Tobago, I tell you this without fear of contradiction. If my brother was made Minister of Health of Trinidad and Tobago tomorrow, the last person to die of COVID-19 would have died before his feet hit the tarmac in Piaco. But after that, not another one. and he would have ended it because he is that talented. And it is what drove him to be that. My whole family are accomplished people who came from nothing. And unlike some criminal relatives of ours who use drug money to build themselves fancy empires and take dirty money and corrupt members of parliament and ministers of government to give themselves contract and tell themselves because they bullying this little Indian girl and that little journalist. That is how they feel. They are important. That's the friends, and that's the conversation they have with their friends. This enter into this, that dirty mud, dank and fetid swamp. When Trump said drain the swamp, I said, brother, you talking about Trinidad? America's not a swamp. Trinidad is a swamp. We are latrine pit. We are fly-infested latrine pit. That's what this is. You can't get your prime minister to tell you the truth about something as glaring as that shipment of Pfizer, that smuggled cash of Pfizer that came with a to whom it may concern document. And these jackasses tripping over themselves trying to convince you that in some piece of madness, America said, look at open case of Pfizer, there's what left. Look at to whom it may concern, but consider that an official gift. America laughing at itself for that. And at some point, even if Trinidad law enforcement will investigate that, at some point, I believe the Federal Bureau of Investigation will get involved to try and find out what exactly went on in the name of the State Department of the United States of America. And we may well get that information sometime in the future. Who brought that half a case of Pfizer vaccines? And why was this, our government, working so hard to cover it up? Somebody asked, every plane that have to land under this pandemic, closed borders, the Minister of National Security knows it's coming. The manifest, they know the name on every person and what is in the cargo. So if they didn't know about this, Rowley say why he couldn't mention it. I knew it was coming, but we wasn't sure and we could. Bullshit! Bullshit! The bullshit dribbling out your mouth now. Stop it. We all see it's a lie. You are lying publicly now. It's bullshit. There is no explanation that you could give us that would make us believe that what you're saying is true. That you in a press conference talking about vaccine from all over the world. 100 coming from here, 2,000 from there, some from St. Kitts, some from India, some from Africa and COVAX, some from America. I talked to Kamala Harris. We have it down. We're locking it down. We say if we could, right, boom, bam, bam, bam. And everything but the vaccines that landed that night, and you knew about it, miss me with your bullshit, brother. You and Fitzgerald Hines have added a level of deceit to governance in this country unknown to anybody else. Because the people are watching you lie now, defending the indefensible. Come straight. But I feel that you can't. I feel the names that going and call for them 200 shots going to embarrass you after you let go, your Lego beast like Rhoda Barrett and them on poor Mr. Arjun, who just said what everybody else knows because we're hearing it from all sides. So and so a woman published, she just got she first Pfizer. She in a street in San Fernando. Some friend of she said she from Canada. I said, brother, you push me far enough, I'll post pictures of her on the balcony. When I get information, I make sure I check everything first. Because I know how easy it is for them to set me up with bullshit. I've been down that road too. You can't get your government to come straight with you about something like that. Where you think we really going? Where? Where we going? Trinidad and Tobago. If the Prime Minister use a press conference about COVID-19 to lie to you, where we going? Where do you think we're going? If the Minister of Health have no idea what he's doing and people dying, where you think we're going? If the CMO looks so confused right now, he don't know which version of his truth is the truth anymore. Where you think we're going? Not anywhere good. Until tomorrow, my friends, keep yourself safe. and stay safe. To the fathers of this country, let me say this again before I go. You are the rock that it is tied to. You are the columns that hold up the church and the temple and the mosque. You are the floor. You are the grains in the marble. When your children look at this world with fear, they think, Daddy, Daddy. Listen now, my son asked me when he was very small, what does it mean to be a father? And I had to take time to think about that. And I come back and tell him, the only thing that I know is when you're back to the wall, I will be the wall. You understand that? That's your job. You are father to that little girl and that little boy, regardless of how big they get now. They're your children till one or all you're dead. And your role is to make sure that you do everything in your power to fight all the monsters, real and imagined, to protect them and give them a better life. And this is it. The fathers of this nation have let this country down. And it is up to us to do better.